So brothers and sisters, without further delay, please help me to bring to the rostrum with we're going to bring our brother, student minister, brother Hafiz to the rostrum to bring our brother up. The New York representative to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet you as I came before you. Assalamu alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise belongs to Him who is the Lord of the worlds. It is Allah who is the creator of all living things, the revealer of all truths, the sender of all prophets. We thank Him for coming in the person of the great Mahdi, the self-guided one, Master Fard Muhammad. We don't say that to force that on you. Right. That's just our declaration of faith. Right. So you can't take that from us. Right. We appreciate yours. Appreciate that of the Nation of Islam. Yes, sir. That's right. We thank our eternal leader. Come on. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Yes, sir. That's right. Yes, sir. And we thank them both for that mighty national representative. The Son of Man. Come on. That's right. A Jesus in the midst of the people. That's right. Come on. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Yes, sir. I wish to greet all of you, my beloved brothers and sisters, yes, sir, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam, sir. We're so happy to see you all out tonight. Happy to see you, sir. Yes, sir. So happy to see you. You're not happy for yourself? You can't give yourself a better hand clap than that? I'm not going to clap. I said we're so happy to see you. You should be clapping for yourself. That's how you feel about yourself. You can't clap no better than that for yourself? Come on. Listen. We need spirit to move people. That's right. That's right. And we need love to permeate with that spirit. That's right. So tonight we introduce a brother. Come on. Who's one of our nation's scholars. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, you do not treat a scholar like you do a student minister. Come on now. The brother that's coming before you is not Brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad. Come on now. Or our student minister here, Henry Muhammad. Yes, sir. He's not student minister Ishmael or student minister Abel or student minister Ava or student minister Nori or Jeffrey. Yes, sir. He's not Sister Taisha. All right. He's himself. He's a scholar. No, that's all meant in a wonderful way. Meaning we all represent in a certain spiritual way, but this is a scholar who has the spirit to take challenging subjects that scholars do. So deal with him from a position of actual facts that have been codified into book form. See, look how strong I speak for him, because I speak strong for the minister, but we don't help him if we only speak strong for him, but don't speak strong for one another. He represents our Father. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As we all do. Yes, sir. So our job is to help one another. Yes, sir. That's right. So I wanted to bring my brother up here in New York. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here at Muhammad Mosque, number 7C. Yes, sir. That's right. Here in New York City. That's right. In the mighty borough of Brooklyn. Yes, sir. In the house. That's right. That's right. They say Harlem make it, but Brooklyn take it. And I want you to help me take it for Harlem. That's right. That's right. Well, I make it for you in Harlem for Brooklyn. That's right. And we do it for Queens and Bronx, Long Island and Staten Island, as we fighting a war on two fronts. And the devil is doing his part. When will the gods rise up? The gods. That's why there's a problem in black masculinity that our brother will teach on, because you don't know that you're a god.
That is it.
And as we bring our brothers, sisters, know this, that God is a he.
Come on now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who is born from a she.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
His origin starts in the male sperm.
Yes, sir.
And is completed in the female ovum.
Yes, sir.
And when the sperm touches the egg, you don't know whether it's male or female, but you know it started from a male. And it's completed, brothers, with the female.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right. That's right. Actual fact.
So a real man respects the woman whom Allah says reverence the womb.
Yes,
You can't be soldiers in this revolution beating on your woman.
no, sir.
We will kick your ass if you put your hand on the black woman in this movement. You don't touch these sisters. Not just a Muslim sister, a sister even in your group.
All right. Listen.
Maybe I should have said your ass should be kicked, but I can kick some butt if I have to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
This is how real men talk.
Yes, sir.
So sisters, you get out the way and let men talk like men
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and serve you as women.
Yes, sir.
But let us be us natural warriors. Don't slow us down.
Yes, sir.
Give us wisdom. Don't let us be like the bull, challenging the locomotive. I'd rather be like the lion, walk across, not that stupid bull. So therefore we need you to help us. Negro, you about to be a bull. Now stop with the bull and be a lion and learn how to roar. So here's one of our lions tonight who's coming to roar. And we are honored to have him. And when we finish with him, we're going to shake you for every dime out of your pocket. Because you got to help this work. So don't nobody leave the door. We're going to treat you like Jews tonight. Lock the door. Nobody getting up out of here tonight. Because freedom ain't free unless you pay your way. But we're honored to have you.
Yes, sir.
He's our student minister.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Wesley. Student minister is put in front of doctor because ministry is the highest calling. But we honor his study, his commitment, his sacrifice, his love, and his dedication. We bring up one of the gods of our nation. Huh? Who's serving, as I do, under the man who is becoming God right in front of your face, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let's bring up student minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. And I want to make it plain, a God. I'm talking of Minister Farrakhan. A God, just like you and me. Thank you. Come on, give him a hand. Give him a hand and show our love. Thank you, brother. I'll just bring you on right. May Allah bless you.
In the name of Allah, who came in a person of Master, Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom our holy praises are forever due, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine reminder in our midst, the apostle of God.
Yes, sir.
Proof that Allah did not cease intervening in the affairs of the black man and woman in America in 1975. In their names, I greet you, family. Assalamu alaikum.
Sir.
My first order of business is to beg forgiveness. If I feel like I look a little disheveled.
No, sir.
It's been a long day here in Brooklyn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's been a long productive day
Yes, sir.
here in Brooklyn. A wonderful day.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know how I'm wearing it. So let me offer my first apologies. Secondly, my sincere thanks and gratitude. First to my big brother, brother minister, student minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
That's, yeah. Brother Minister Hafiz, I can't express my appreciation for you. You and I, we have grown in the years. We have been blessed to know each other. I remember the first day I met you at FOI class. You remember that FOI class?
That's right.
And that was the beginning of a valuable relationship for me as I am growing in this work. I look at you and others and I learn so much. And you are a valuable example, an exemplar as helper of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And that's the first order of business. That's the most important, the most valuable task that we may have, whatever we put
That's right.
in front of our
That's
name.
right. That's right. Come on now.
All of us can't put doctor, all of us can't put student minister, all of us can't put
That's right.
student laborer, but helper
That's right. That's
of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. That's our most important task, and that is the most rewarding
That's
Yes, sir.
right. That's right.
task. It ain't easy.
No, sir.
It ain't easy.
That's right.
And that's why I value my big brothers like Student Minister Abdul Hafiz
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Muhammad, Brother Student Minister Henry,
Yes, sir.
Brother Student Minister David from Trinidad, Brother Student Captain Sherwood. I am thankful to all of New York. To close the point on helper, it's not easy trying to be a helper of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, because in order to be an appropriate helper, we have to learn the way of Farrakhan.
Go ahead.
That's right. Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Yes, sir. That's
That's
right.
right.
The extent to which we learn and are responsive to the way of Farrakhan is the extent to which we are effective in this work. And, you know, Farrakhan's way isn't easy.
Go ahead now. Teach on that.
It isn't.
It is.
Because Farrakhan is a new human being.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Go ahead.
God.
It's a new human being. He is a God.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And he's a God in his way.
Come
Yes,
on.
sir.
In his way of dealing with us. And none of us who have come to him had that experience before coming to him.
That's right.
None of us are used to that way.
Right.
Because none of us have been the understudy of a God before.
Right.
None of us have been the understudy of a God before.
Right. That's right.
And so, his way isn't easy, but his way is beautiful because it's empowering. And so I look at my big brothers in this work, and it is an honor to have been introduced by my big brother, student minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad. We want to talk about family, a serious subject.
Come on, black man. Come on.
I believe it is the fierce urgency of now.
Yes, sir.
Understanding the assault on the black man,
Yes, sir.
black manhood,
Yes, sir.
and black masculinity.
Come on.
See,
Here we go.
that is not disconnected or separate from the police murder of Keith Lamont Scott in Charlotte.
Teach on.
That is not disconnected from the ever increasing rash of police murders of black men.
Yes, sir.
In order to understand that, we have to understand the assault on a black man, black manhood, and black masculinity. So I'm going to say a few words, but I'm going to let you know part of what we intend tonight is to say a few words and then open up for question and answer.
Yes, sir.
I would like to start with a reflection. 2 weeks ago, I was blessed to be in New Orleans, where we spoke on the subject, understanding the assault on the black man. Why? What? Who's doing this? It's me?
No, he's working it.
And during one of my lectures, I got the sisters angry. And so I figured maybe I better start saying a word or two to my sisters. The need to understand the assault on the black man, black masculinity, and black manhood is not just his need.
Come on. Take, Muhammad.
Except you to understand the assault on the black man, his manhood, his masculinity. You can't find peace in your home.
Go ahead.
Because you can't restore his manhood, and it is you who will restore his manhood. It's God, but it's God through you. It's not his captain.
Come on now.
Captains train men, but captains don't make men. They don't rebuild the
Come
man.
on now. Teach.
The black man is rebuilt in his home. He's trained in class, but he's rebuilt in the home. He can be redeconstructed in the home. 75% of the work, of this work, is with the black woman, because you're the key to our rebuilding. You're the agent of the resurrection of the black man. You are the agent of the restoration of the black man. You know, the god Osiris was the king, but when he died, his wife brought him back to life. He was a lord. Once he was back, he was the lord of all, but his wife brought him back. That's you. The sisters were mad, or I should say, upset, because I said in one of my lectures that the highest power in the universe is the black male mind.
Think about that. Listen.
The most powerful force in the universe is the black male's mind. And I said, and it's true, you are a god, sister. You are a god.
That's right.
I said, there's levels to this thing.
Yes, sir.
The supreme God is a manifestation of the black male mind.
Come on, teach that truth. Teach that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the focus of Satan's assault on the black man is on his mind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That now.
I understand that we are, the late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing had it right. There is an obsession with the black male's genitals in this society.
Listen.
But they understand that the black male genital is only proxy to his real power.
Yeah.
And for white supremacy, castration of the black man didn't just mean removing his genitals.
Listen.
The chemical castration that I'm going to say something about later, it was part of the scientific assault on the black man. Chemical castration, they used. How many sisters are familiar with Depo-Provera? It's during the day, it's a birth control for women. At night, it's a chemical castration for black men.
Wake us up.
Depo-Provera, and it's dangerous for you, sister. It's cancer causing. But its original intention was not as a birth control for you, it's as a chemical castration for him.
Listen.
Because Depo-Provera was introduced as a chemical castration during the 80s as part of the government's violence initiative. They were afraid of rioting black males.
Yes, sir.
And they wanted to, and the government funded research on how to neuter the violent black male. The rioting or social protesting black male, which they described as violence. Social protests or agitation for rights is senseless violence to them. But Depo Provera was introduced by the government in a policy aimed at black male to chemically castrate black males under the Violence Initiative program. But they also and primarily introduced a chemical that murdered the black male's mind. Autism.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Brother Student Minister Tony Muhammad is going around the country with Vaxxed
That's right.
movie. Has it come here?
Yes, sir.
It's a powerful movie
Right.
or documentary. Autism, we now know, is triggered by the mirror that has mercury
That's right.
in it.
That's right.
But what we are now learning, the mercury in the mirror attacks a particular brain chemical, serotonin.
That's right. That's it.
And serotonin is critical. This brain chemical controls or modulates appetite, human appetite,
Yes, sir.
food appetite, and sex appetite. It modulates sexual behavior, including sexual preferences. It modulates sleep. Because it controls impulse. A healthy human has a high level of serotonin, brain serotonin, and serotonin in the blood.
Yes, sir.
The high level of this chemical acts as brakes to our impulses, instincts, and appetites. When you lower this brain chemical, then you give free expression to impulse. And by targeting brain serotonin in particular, targeting it enough, you can change sexual preference. And they did it in the lab. They mastered the creation of lab homos, if you will. They mastered the creation of lab homos by two methods.
Come on.
By introducing certain drugs designed to target brain serotonin
Yes, sir.
and deplete it,
Exactly what they did.
or by forcing the subject in a diet that lacks the enzyme that produces serotonin. In both cases, by depleting serotonin sufficiently, they did two seemingly opposite things. They created, and I'm gonna get back to autism, but they created the super predator and the black sissy.
All right now.
What's the super predator? Well, we remember when Hillary Clinton made her remarks. She didn't make it in a vacuum. The super predator was the cold and callous black male who was uber violent, who could kill senselessly with no provocation or remorse.
Listen.
She was speaking to not a theoretical construct. She was speaking to a laboratory product.
Right. Come on, man. Teach on it. Listen to this.
The University of California in LA, UCLA, in the late 70s and early 80s, initiated the study or research paradigm that would eventually result in these lab-made super predators and lab-made black sissies. And I'm using black sissy not as a pejorative, but as a technical term. I'll explain that in a minute. By depleting this brain chemical serotonin and then putting that subject in a hostile environment. The hostile environment naturally in every human, hostility and adversity triggers aggression and impulse naturally. It's a defensive mechanism. Serotonin acts as a check in the brake. It modulates it. So, all right, slow down, homie. So you don't go overboard with aggression. But when you deplete serotonin, there's no brake.
All right. Say that.
And so the aggression goes on 10, and there's nothing to stop it.
Wow.
So by depleting serotonin in individuals, and then putting or creating around those individuals a hostile environment, it creates individuals who are slaves to their impulse violence, impulse sex. The more you deplete the serotonin and the more violent the environment. It produced, before it was called super predator, it was called callous emotional trait possessor. Callous emotional trait possessor was the product of the depleted serotonin in a hostile environment, who now is so aggressive, his impulses are so out of control, he kills at the drop of a dime with no remorse. They produced this in the lab scientifically by depleting serotonin. And all of the studies, they started with African green monkeys, then they transferred the studies to inner city black males.
Wow. Here it is. I'm home. All right.
They noticed that by controlling the environment, once they depleted the serotonin sufficiently. I said serotonin modulates appetite, impulse, sexual preference. They did it with rabbits, with rats, with cats. They successfully induced what they call in science male-on-male mounting.
Wow.
Males mounting other males by depleting the serotonin sufficiently, then manipulating the environment. They induced male-on-male mounting. The homosexual.
Yes, yeah. That's it.
They did it, these serotonin studies that produce both under certain circumstances the super predator and under other circumstances the black sissy. They did it by introducing what they called a battery of drugs. Certain drugs were studied, its effect on serotonin was studied. Cocaine and weed proved to be most important as a pharmaceutical agent to deplete, and ecstasy to deplete serotonin. I said that to say, getting back to the initial point I was making to my sisters. I said in New Orleans that the most powerful force in the universe is a black male mind. And the efforts at the highest level of this government was aimed at the black male mind. So autism, the mirror saw, attacks serotonin. And when we now know that the mirror saw ill affects black males more than any other victim. Young black boys get autism at 200 to 300 times the rate than white boys. But both white and black get it. Why? Because the study, one aspect of the study, one thing they wanted to investigate was the effect of social hierarchy on the effect of these chemicals. Meaning this: dominant men and subordinate men are not the same.
Come on now.
Dominant alpha males and beta males are not the same. No. They studied what they call dominance hierarchy. They discovered that the very biochemistry of dominant males was distinct from the biochemistry of subordinate male groups. The serotonin is different. Other biochemical metrics are different because dominance itself is both facilitated by a particular biochemistry and it produces a particular biochemistry, so it's cyclical. The same with subordination. Subordinate male groups have a particular biochemical profile. And they study by introducing a drug to both dominant male groups with one biochemical profile and subordinate male groups with a different biochemical profile. Would the effect be the same? So they introduced the Mirasol in the MMR vaccine. They gave the vaccine to white children and black children alike. Why? Because they want to know what's the difference between the effect on dominant male groups, white boys, and subordinate male groups, black boys. And they discovered that the Mirasol ill affects the subordinate male groups, black boys, 200 to 300 times more than white boys.
Wow.
And this issue of dominance hierarchy is critical. Dominance hierarchy. They artificially created the black matriarchy.
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, every single thing I'm saying is going to be in my book that's coming out. You hear about my book? Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinity. Because, as my big brother, Student Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad said, and I think it's important for me to reiterate at this juncture, that my primary manner of work is as an academic. I'm a critical fact dude. I'm a Muslim today, having been previously an atheist. I'm a Muslim today because my study of this teaching convinced me that this teaching is not religious doctrine.
Come on, wake us up. All right.
If this teaching was religious doctrine, I wouldn't be before you today.
All right.
I would probably still be an atheist. Or in Afrocentric, I was almost a Minister Ramesses. I almost was. They almost got me. They almost got me in college. But because I know for a fact, as I'm sure you do too, and if you don't, you should know for a fact that this Islam is a verifiable body of knowledge. That's what this is. If it was religious doctrine, y'all can have it. I'm done with religious. I'm sorry, I'm done with religious doctrine. But this is a provable body of objective knowledge. So I'm loving it. So I'm here.
Yes, sir.
And Islam is mathematics.
Yes, sir.
That means Islam must be approached mathematically, critically, empirically, not dogmatically or religiously. Then your Islam is religious doctrine. I say that to say this, that my primary method in my work is as an academic. And black facts matter. White facts matter. All facts matter. All facts matter. And so what I am sharing with us I'm sharing it only because I'm fully documenting it in the book. Because you must require documentation.
That's right. Yes, sir.
You must require, especially claims like this.
Yes, sir.
The exotic that isn't documented is just exotic BS.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what most of what is taught here in New York on 125th Street and in California. And yeah, I'm not on New York. No, I come to New York. Yeah, I got a relationship with New York. I got a relationship with 125th Street. But peace to the guys at 125th. I'm not hating on 125th. But we like the exotic.
Right.
And it's fine, but it ain't documented. And this assault on a black male is so real, you won't recognize the fierce urgency of it except you recognize it for its reality.
Yeah, say that. Yes, that's right.
For its reality. If it's just a theory, you won't be moved. If it's just interesting talk from behind the rostrum, you'll leave it here when you leave. But the assault on his mind in particular, the extent to which you and I take it seriously, determines the quality of black life in your home and in the community. The extent to which we take the assault on his mind seriously determines the value of life in the black home and in the black community.
Yes, sir. That's right.
They created, Brother Minister David, Brother Student Minister David, the black matriarchy. You know what I mean by black matriarchy?
Teach us that.
Most homes today, 70% of black children are born and raised in homes with only a mother. In those homes where there is a father or a male, he is so disenfranchised.
That's right. Wow, yeah, it is.
He is so disempowered.
Weak.
Do you notice on black TV
Come on.
and on commercials when they show a black family, a black husband and wife, who's boss?
We're female.
All the time. That's a black matriarchy.
Yeah.
And that's a dominance relationship. That's the inverse of the dominance relationship that God established. And in particular, it's the inverse of the dominance relationship that the scientists who created the black matriarchy, their ideal dominance relationship was what I guess you would call patriarchal, but what we would simply call Islam, man is the head of the home. Because the black man is the God of the home.
Say that.
Y'all mad at that?
Actually, fact.
But understand something, family. That idea was, and that structure was specifically targeted and uprooted. I can show images of particular scientific experiments that were done. They took a group of alpha males, alpha male African green monkeys, and then they took a female of a subordinate group. They implanted the alpha male, they implanted in the brain of the alpha males a brain chip. And they attached to the colony a lever. By pulling the lever, it sent electrical shock to the brain chip in the alpha male's brain. And it immobilizes them and subdues them. And they edged and trained the female how to use the level. And at her will, she was able to subdue the alpha males. And the scientists who oversaw these dominance hierarchy studies, Jose Delgado from Yale, he said specifically that his interest wasn't in monkeys. He wanted to replicate his monkey experiments in human society. But not just human society. Jose Delgado was part of the circle of scientists studying the black male in the Violence Initiative program. So they specifically wanted to create a particular dominance relationship in the black community, and they did so.
Yes, sir. That's what they did.
So the black community is characterized by this dominance relationship called the black matriarchy. The black male is so disempowered, and we compensate by being violent to you. But that too is scripted, because they discovered that in South Africa before they implemented it here. When they disempowered the Zulu, the pre-colonial Zulu male,
Wow.
they noticed, now, pre-colonial Zulu people were a people of great morality, restraint, and military discipline. There was no battery among the pre-colonial Zulus, none. When the British actively disempowered the Zulu male, suicide among the males and murder of the Zulu females ensued. So they know that the disempowering of the male will result in a violent reaction against the female. That's a sociological fact. And so when they purposely disempower the male, they know what your life is going to be like. And science is science because it can be repeated in other labs. And so just like it was in South Africa, the most abused, the most battered woman in America is the black woman. None of this is accident. In my book, we got names, we got the institutions, we got the receipts, we got the documents. So they created this particular dominance hierarchy, the black matriarchy. They created or perfected the urban ghetto with all of its carnage. It's an 80s phenomenon. Most of the disastrous epidemics in the black community today stem from the 80s. Because almost all of them derive from their research paradigm that they call sociopharmacology, which means crack cocaine. Crack cocaine was one of the most important. Crack cocaine was created in the basement of a laboratory of UCLA. We got the confession of the scientists. It was created 13 years before the world knew or heard the word crack. It was created by an understudy of Dr. Jolly West, and Dr. Jolly West was one of those who was on that initial violence initiative targeting the black male. Crack was produced as what they called a psychosurgery ice pick. Psychosurgery is doing unnecessary surgery on the brain. By unnecessary, meaning a brain that doesn't have a known disease and damaging tissues. And psychosurgery was recommended as the solution to the black riots. Do psychosurgery. Now the method of psychosurgery then in the 60s and 70s was in what they call an ice pick. A pick that they stuck through the eye, and it went to the brain and damaged the brain tissue that they wanted to damage, producing a zombie-like being. But the ice pick and psychosurgery was outlawed in the mid-70s. So they switched from psychosurgery to sociopharmacology. Produced a drug that would have the same effect of that ice pick. And the drug that was created was crack cocaine. And just as the ice pick produced zombies, human zombies, crack produced an urban zombie.
Yes, sir.
Everything about this society is obsessed with keeping him brain dead. Everything about this society is obsessed with the castration of the black male. But by castration, when I say castration, don't just think of his genital. Don't even primarily think of his genital. Yes, sir. Because the source of his potency is the black male mind. So Urkel, who remembers Urkel? Urkel was Urkel had disastrous effect. I know it's funny, it's so silly, but it wasn't just Urkel wasn't just entertainment. Urkel was a psych op. Urkel was part of the psych op because Urkel made black male intellectuality ugly. Urkel made, the creators of Urkel made black male intellectuality repulsive.
All right. There it is. All right.
And so now in the home, the accepted order is the intellectually superior female to the intellectually inferior male, and y'all happy with that. You happy and you happy. No, good. But you know that we're happy, we're very content with that in the black home. And we aren't demanding, you aren't demanding intellectual superiority in him because, you know, Urkel is corny. Right. Go ahead. So that psych op made black male intellectuality an ugly thing. So the order of the day is the dumbing of the black male. It's acceptable, and this is the divine mind of the planet. But our dullardry, us being dullards is the term that Jose Delgado used. He wanted to produce or transform those violent black males into dullards. They're dull. And then, in case you missed it, reinforced the criminality, the social criminality of the black male mind through Steve Urkel. Yeah. And Sister, well, I don't know, it's different here, but if I was speaking to an audience not in the mosque, they would probably bear witness. I don't teach y'all daughters to go after or accept the cause of the Urkel types. And see, the thug who beats you,
Right.
the thug who beats, the thug who cheats, is preferable to the nerd, because they created this Democrat or Republican system. You only got two choices: the dumb, violent thug or the intellectual cornball. That's all you got. You ain't got nothing else. But the beauty of Muhammad is he made the FOI. That's the best of both. The FOI is that black manhood restored. The black manhood that was specifically destroyed in South Africa was restored in America.
Yes, sir. That's right.
The more you learn about the pre-colonial Zulus, the more you appreciate the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, T.
The manhood and masculinity that has been the standard of black manhood in America for nearly a century now.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's right.
The marriage of militarism and intellectualism.
That's right.
And morality. With a moral conscience.
That's right. That's right.
And that's why the Nation of Islam and the FOI are the ultimate targets of the war on terror.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Al-Qaeda and the Arabs and ISIS, they were never the ultimate goal of the war on terror. They were the temporary proxy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The target of the war on terror was always the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, for the same reason the Zulu manhood initiation ceremonies were targeted by the British.
It is.
So I'm putting these things out there to stimulate the Q&A.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I want you to question in everything. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
And so I will close and open with this, summarizing the points that I've offered to us. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said, if you don't understand white supremacy, nothing makes sense. I would add that if you don't understand the assault on a black male, white supremacy can't make sense to you. You don't know the whole point of white supremacy, so you don't know, we don't know how to counter it.
Right.
And you know a simple but painful It's simple and it shouldn't be painful, but unfortunately, because of their work, it may come as painful to some of us. The first step, the most important step in countering white supremacy is restoring him in the black home. The most important step in countering white supremacy is restoring him in his proper role and profile in the home. And that's, you are the only one that can really do that. If he is not, and sisters, understand, if he is disempowered in his home, how can he go out in this hostile society and be empowered? You want him to be empowered in the world, you should. But if he's disempowered in the home, there's absolutely no way he can be empowered in the world. The only way he can step out into this viciously hostile world empowered is if he leave his home empowered.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And unfortunately, that's a challenge, brother Hafiz. Unfortunately, that's a challenge for us in the nation as much as it is outside the nation. There's a black matriarchy in the nation because there's a hold your seats. But there's skinny suits in the nation. And where you see skinny suits, you see in the symptom of the process of the feminization of the black man. ISIS, and I'm going to close on ISIS and Osiris. You know how ISIS restored Osiris? The dead black god? With her words. Her words were words of healing. They were magic words. And you see Osiris prostrate, and you see Isis and Nephthys, her sister, each on an end of Osiris. And they're speaking to his dead body. Speaking to his dead body. And the incantation, the magical incantations that they're speaking are described as words of lamentation and words of glorification. Two different incantations.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You know what a lamentation is? To lament.
Come on.
So the first order of healing words that Isis and Nephthys spoke to the dead body of her husband were words of lamentation. She's lamenting the death and condition of her husband. She's crying, she's lamenting. And this very act of lamenting, lamenting her husband's dead condition breathes life into his body.
All right.
Wow. See, part of the problem, sister,
Go ahead.
y'all not sympathetic of our condition anymore.
Go ahead.
Nigga, get up, man. Come on, nigga. What you, nigga? Come on, nigga. Ain't nobody sympathetic. I know it's hard to maintain sympathy for 460 years.
Right. That's true.
I It is. But the difficulty of the job signals the importance of the job.
Go ahead.
And that's why you are of the highest value, because your sympathy with the condition of your dead black God and your words of sympathy is what blows life into that dead black God. Try it. You will be surprised. See, that your mouth is the source of power with him. It is. The other incantation is words of glorification. Now picture that. This man is dead, and he's been dead for a long time, so he stinks. The corpse stinks.
Yes, sir.
Yet his wife over there glorifying him.
Good God.
Speaking to that dead, stinky body, words of glorification. I know it's hard to glorify your husband and he broke and raggedy, right? I know, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to glorify us in our current condition. We raggedy. We stink. We do. We do. I know. We stink.
Go ahead.
We are a stinking, rotten corpse. The black man is. And it's hard to glorify that.
Right.
But you know how you do it, though?
Teach.
Be like the messenger of God. You notice the messenger of God is styled a woman.
Listen.
And what is it about the messenger of God? Remember when the minister encountered Young Thug?
Yes, sir.
And Young Thug said, y'all know what Young Thug is, the dress wearing. Right. And Young Thug said, I want to be great like you, brother minister. What did the minister say to Young Thug? He said, you are greater than me. Now, does a minister lie?
No, sir.
He don't. And a minister don't just give niceties.
That's right. That's right.
No, he's genuine and sincere.
That's right.
So the apostle of God is looking at embracing Young Thug and saying, you are greater than me. How can he say that?
Listen.
Because the messenger of God sees through the human condition of the gods.
Teach, man.
We have fallen victim to our human condition. And we, both you and me, we stop at the human condition of our mate. You stop at the human condition of your dead husband, and we stop at the human condition of our dead wife. And we judge you and you judge us based on our human condition. And you love or hate us, and we love and hate you based on your and my human condition. But the messenger of God sees through the human condition to the God in Young Thug, to the God in us. The only way, and so he can glorify us black people who are stinking rotten corpse. But he can genuinely glorify us because he's not speaking of the human condition that he encounters when he meets us.
Right.
He judges us and treats us according to the God in us that he sees under our human condition. That's the message of God, and that's what you have to do in order to restore your man.
Teach.
You have to be like the messenger of God. You have to relate to him, not based on the human condition that you married. Because if you relate to him according to the human condition that you married, just perpetuating the cycle. The cycle never be broken. You have to relate to him based on the God in him buried under his human condition. And by relating to him as such, you are excavating the God out of the dirt that is in you. You are the excavator of the God in the black man. And you excavated by the words of limitation and glorification. So you glorify him, knowing all the while you ain't glorifying that man you laying with or you sitting with. You ain't glorifying him. You glorifying what you see inside of him. You understand what I'm saying? That is. So you are the greatest threat to white supremacy, because only you can restore the black man. And by ensuring the perpetual war, by making you believe that his need for power in the home is patriarchy, and patriarchy is a bad thing. No, it's not a want. He has a need. As a man, he has a biological, psychological mandate for power in his home. That's a man. A man needs power. Oh, y'all sound mad. Y'all look mad at that. Y'all ain't like that, did you? Y'all ain't like that, did Brother Hafiz? They ain't like that. They ain't like that. God is what? Force and power. So if you have a man who don't need force and power, you ain't with a God. You with a feminized black man. He may not know it. He ain't gotta be fair. He ain't gotta wear a pink tutu to be feminized. There's levels to it. But if your man is comfortable, disempowered in his home, he's unmanned. So if he don't know that he need power, you gotta remind him.
Right. All right now.
You gotta breathe life into him.
Beautiful.
You gotta make him king. Y'all want to tar and feather. But we're gonna open up the question and answer. But this is a fierce urgency or now.
Yes, sir.
The black home is a power base against white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
If we don't get the black home in order, white supremacy's reign is forever perpetual. And getting the black home in order requires the new paradigm. It's painful, but how we do life in the home, even us in the nation, a lot of it is residual from slavery.
Yes, sir.
A lot of how we do life in the home is residual from slavery, compounded by the scientific interventions of the U.S. government.
Yes,
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Assalamu alaikum, family. We have time for 5 thought-provoking questions. I have to say that, questions. We're going to start with the sisters. If you have a thought-out question that you would like to ask our big brother, and I'm sure he'll give you the best answer to your question. And not any statements or any comments. We have to ask thought-provoking questions based on what you've heard today that you might want further knowledge. We're going to ask the sisters first, and then we're going to come to the brother side. So we have 5. So we'll start with the sisters. Anyone? on. It's all right. Come on, Sister April. State your name.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sister.
I'm Sister Ave X.
It's a pleasure.
I have been the target of the U.S. government. And one of my sons, younger son, he was in an accident driving his bicycle. And he was taken to the hospital with brain damage. And they said they had to do emergency surgery on him to save his life. He's about 32 or 33. Now, he refused. He came out of, he had lost consciousness. He came out of coma, and the surgery, they claimed they didn't know who I was. I'm a nurse manager, also nurse educator. To make a long story short, he had, the type of damage he had was a very rare injury to the brain, bleeding. Severe damage to his eye. The part of his eye was fractured, and they say the injury was extremely rare, the location. He has no medical history except for a car injury to his back, probably about 6 years ago. And he recovered, because once I found out, I got very proactive, and they said it was extremely rare. So it's just baffling. No one knew what happened. He was taken to the hospital.
After the accident.
He was riding a bike. He doesn't know what happened at all. And there was no police report.
How old was he at the time?
Excuse me?
How old was he at the time?
This just happened less than a year ago. He's either 32 or 33, I forgot. Sorry. My question is, I was very suspicious of what happened. A police report was never filed. It happened in Queens, not too far from where we live, right outside by our church. He was riding his bike. The bike, they claimed they had attached it, put a lock on it. But there was no police report filed at all. And I just found it very suspicious, because just my background.
So he was riding his bike and he was struck by a vehicle?
He doesn't know what happened to him. And
He's riding his bike, and then the next thing he knows, he's in the hospital.
Yes.
With these injuries that we can't account for or understand.
Yes. And he had a history of smoking pot. He used pot to get over his pain that he's had from his car accident years ago. But he was not on the blood report. He was not on any drugs at all. And I was just wondering if there was a conspiracy, because they do have ambulance where there are no medical, it's run by police officers that have ambulance. So I just thought it was very suspicious, and I was highly suspicious of that the government was involved with that. Because I was targeted many years ago in Virginia with a car accident.
You were targeted?
Yes, I was supposed to have been dead or paralyzed, but Allah restore my health back to.
Praise belongs to
Yes.
Well, obviously, I can't personally, thank you for sharing, sister. I can't personally speculate on that particular situation, but it sounds very suspicious. I agree. And there was in Philly, in the 80s, a black man was found. He had overdosed and died out there on the street. Found his body. The reporter who covered the story said that he, in examining this black OD victim, just found that he had particular suspicious marks in his head. And when they investigated further, they discovered that he was a patient of psychosurgery. Somebody had drilled into his brain. And then they researched further and they located the doctor who performed the psychosurgery on him, and the doctor's response was, well, yes, I couldn't get the results on my monkey experiment that I needed. So they found a black drug user and did the psychosurgery experiment on him. I say that to say that there's a million stories like that. Again, I can't speak to your son's particular tragic situation. How is he today?
He gets very agitated, almost violent. He wouldn't hit, but he gets almost out of control. And since that, his anger management.
That tells me a lot, because the number one, the first side effect produced in all of the violence initiative studies was the increase in aggression, because all of the efforts target serotonin, deplete the serotonin. So the very first symptom in all of the various studies is the patient or victim is abnormally aggressive. Again, I can't speak to your particular situation, but I share your suspicion. And that, in this, look, this is real. This is real. Police murder is not about racism or bad training. It's about the war of the gods. It's the war of the gods. We may not believe it, but they know it. We may be fighting racism, but they fight in the war of the gods. And it's real. So I'm sorry to hear, sister. I share your suspicion of that situation. It's very possible that he, like that brother in Philly and so many others, were hijacked as experiments.
Question? Yes, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you. I really appreciate your lecture today, and I'm so grateful to be here today.
I'm grateful to be here with you.
Yes, sir. And listening to what you had to say, I just wanted to know, what kind of advice would you be able to offer in light of the fact that it's so in the black community, there's so many households that are female run, with females who may be raising young boys.
Yes.
As in particular in the hood. And what kind of advice would you give to those single parents, female parents, who are raising young men or trying to raise young men and doing it in a way that would not harm them and unintentionally feminize them?
Yes.
So,
a very important question, because that's a very pronounced reality for us.
yes, sir.
And it's a real dilemma for you, sisters. A genuine hardship dilemma. You're the caregiver of your boys. You don't want that fact to inadvertently feminize your boys. And the situation is compounded because when our boys leave home, leave mama at home, they go to school and their teacher is a woman. So black boys, especially in the city, grow up with an overdose of feminine energy. And it's not your fault. Black males aren't in the public school system. So they encounter black women and white males. So that is absolutely the problem, the potential problem of the smothering of your sons with feminine energy is real. But so what can we do?
Right.
First, I'm gonna say what it ain't necessary for you to do. It is necessary that your son has male energy. You do want to, you need to, he needs you to introduce him to positive male energy. That doesn't mean you gotta go out and snag a man who's running because you need some male energy in the home. Don't do that. That ain't necessary. Don't do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But what you do, no, you hear that from sisters.
Yes, sir.
It's not the case that all male energy is good male energy. That ain't the case. But what you can do and should do, you got to make sure you find a network of male energies in the community or some community that you involve your sons with. Your sons has to be connected to some male energy. Obviously, preferably FOI.
Yes, sir.
That's not an issue for y'all. That go without saying. But this is for sisters in general because it's not just MGT suffering from this problem.
Right.
The black home, 70% of black homes suffering from this problem.
Yes, sir.
That you didn't create. The problem that you did not create. So it's necessary that you find some network of male energies that you can expose your boys to on a regular basis. Prioritize that. Your son does need male energy. The feminine energy that he gets, it has to be balanced. It has to. Your son, you can teach, mothers can raise boys to be good people. Absolutely, and you do it every day. Part of when we say a mother can't raise him to be a man, it's not that you don't have the knowledge and you can't teach him. You can, especially now, you can YouTube how to shave and then teach him. You know, there's a lot of manly stuff you can theoretically learn how to do intellectually and teach him, but that's not what we're talking about. The energy of manhood and masculinity is necessary in that process of growing from a boy to a man. So he does need masculine energy. Find a network of men. Good men, YMCA, through sports. But involve him in activities that exposes him to masculine energy.
Yes, sir.
It's necessary. It has to be done because he does need that, because we are suffering from the being smothered. Our boys are being smothered by feminine energy. It is. Feminine energy is good, but like everything, too much of anything is a bad thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Brother in the back. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Brother Dr. Wesley with us. If we could allow our guests and our visitors, if they have a question for the second time, we could allow them to ask a question, and we'll see Dr. Wesley later on. Is that okay with everybody? Yes, sir. Because we're on overtime right now, so we just want to expedite. And because of the time, we can only take 2 more questions.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Come on, brother. Peace.
Peace, God.
The question I have is dealing in regards to white supremacy. Do you feel that there's only one way to solve white supremacy? If so, what is it? If not, why not?
Well, no. I have to first say categorically no, by which I mean this, because white supremacy itself is an octopus with a head and 8 legs. Those 8 legs just represent the multiple ways it does what it do on earth. And so the solution will have to attack each of those ways. And so it may look like 8 solutions, and it may be 8 solutions, but you need a strategy for each of those methods. So, for example, one of the arms of the octopus of white supremacy is religion.
Say that. Yes.
Practically all of the religions of the world today are part of that arm of white supremacy, all of them. Islam not excluded. The world of Islam is a world of white supremacy. Today, all of the religions of the world today. So you have the solution to cutting off that arm will look very different from the solution for the arm of education. Because education, global education, is one of the arms of white supremacy. So there would seem to be multiple solutions, and maybe it is a fact that there's multiple solutions, but that's why, because white supremacy has many arms. So many tacks and tracks are required to get a hold of white supremacy. Does that make sense?
One more sister, and let's see if we can get a guest from the sister side. Are there any guests on the sister side that might have a question? All right, we'll take one of the brothers.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
I enjoyed your lecture. I found it very interesting. I have many questions, but we don't have that much time. So one question is, how would you suggest that we keep proper serotonin levels?
That's the most obvious question, right? Yes, but I'm gonna get some context so you really believe that. Because if we just put it out there, you might not believe it. So what he said is 1,000% correct, and that's where I'm gonna end up. But I'm gonna start with some context so you don't think we just dogmatizing you. I would offer up in a bet everything I own, including my children, that if a study were conducted, a particular study were conducted, going to every food source in black neighborhoods that cater to black neighborhoods, those food sources being restaurants or grocery stores, I would guarantee there'd be two findings. All of the food tested, whether it's organic or not, all of the food tested will have two characteristics. I guarantee it. It will have low to no biophoton emission, because as I said on part 2 of my lecture at Mos Mariam, biophotons, you remember, biophotons is the divine light of the biological system. Your cells, our cells emit light, biophotons. And on our level, our dead level, our biophoton emission is ultra weak. On God level, our biophoton emission is ultra strong. That's when light is beaming from us, because our cells emit tremendous biophotons. Now these biophotons are the source of the power of God in us. And every organism emits biophotons, every organism.
That's right.
And one way to increase our biophotons is to eat biophotons. Eat those foods that have the greatest amount of biophotons. Now, scientists have a gadget that can test biophoton emission. And they went in some communities and tested the biophoton emission of the food. And dead food, you eat dead food, or food that had low biophoton emission, you eat death, you get death.
Right.
You eat food with high biophoton emission, you're eating life. And so the biophotons you eat increases the biophotons in your body. So you eat to live, literally. So I promise you, if they took that gadget, that biophoton meter, to every single food source in every urban area or area that services black people, I guarantee you all of the food, organic or non-organic, will be low or absent of biophotons. Second, my second guarantee, and directly answering your question, I guarantee that all of the food will lack tryptophan. Tryptophan is the food source that metabolizes as serotonin in the human body. You eat foods with tryptophan. The tryptophan is an enzyme in foods and many foods, except the foods in the black community, because they have mastered how to deplete tryptophan. They can target tryptophan in foods, and they raise foods that don't have it in it. And so when you eat it, ain't none in there to metabolize into serotonin. So serotonin, and I say that to say, how do you raise the serotonin? You eat the right foods. See, it's real simple, but it's not. That's why the black areas are food deserts.
Right.
Because they specifically don't want us to raise our serotonin or our biophotons, because that's God. And so all of the food in the black community will lack tryptophan. So all of us are walking around serotonin depleted, and that's why all of the violence in the black community is impulsive violence. They said this: all violence ain't the same, and I'm gonna close on this. All violence isn't the same. dominant males engage in strategic violence. Dominant males have high serotonin. Their impulses are in control. And so when they engage in violence, it's premeditated and strategic. And that premeditated strategic violence is characteristic of dominant males. Subordinate males whose serotonin is depleted, so their impulses run wild, they they engage in impulsive violence. And that's black life in the hood. That's the carnage in the black community. All of our death and violence is impulsive. See, nigga stepped on my shoe, pop. Nigga look at my wife, pop. Nigga ate the last chicken wing, pop. All of our violence is impulsive. Our violence isn't dominance. Violence is not strategic, tactical. Violence is impulsive, and all of the carnage in our community derives from impulsive behavior, because as a community, our serotonin has been lowered. And the first source of the lowering of our serotonin is in the food sources in our community. There is no doubt that it's depleted of tryptophan, so when we eat it, there's nothing to metabolize into serotonin. So we have low serotonin levels, but we eat to live. Life is in eating the right food. The replenishing at the right time. The replenishing of serotonin requires eating the foods that has sufficient tryptophan, and we eat the right amount at the right time and replenish our. And that's why they make good foods expensive and poor foods, bad foods, cheap, accessible to poor people. Did I answer your question? He answered your question. How to eat to live. We eat life, we live. We eat death, we die. And the measure of eating life and death, and to a large extent, is a measure of the biophoton emission and the presence of tryptophan in the food. All right, that's it. Assalamu alaikum, family. Thank you.